Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Thanks very much, Count Corla. First of all, look, like other speakers, I do want to welcome this discussion so early on in the lifetime of this government. I think it does signal an intent by the government to address this issue of mental health once and for all. And I know Minister Mary Butler has been a strong advocate in the area of mental health in the last government, and I've no doubt will be in this government. And her efforts ensured that it did receive strong recognition in the programme for government as well, which is so vitally important. Look, the phrase Cinderella has been used, and that is a phrase I've heard often in relation to mental health. Despite the best efforts of the Minister, mental health unfortunately is severely under-resourced, the treatment of mental health, and that's something which we have to correct incrementally insofar as we can as a government. 6% of the budget is simply not enough. And that's replicated across the country. We see it as public representatives, the lack of services there and the difficulty for people to access those services that are there. And again, as public representatives, we hear those stories on a daily and weekly basis. As we know, mental health, or more to the point, the inadequate treatment of mental health is the root cause of so many issues in our society. Certainly we have an acute housing crisis and homelessness situation, but I've no doubt rough sleeping, and the root cause of that in many cases is inadequate treatment for mental health, and there is no question about that. Of course, the whole area of addiction, again, very, very much linked to mental health and the lack of treatment for mental health. And we all know how destructive addiction can be. But again, inadequate treatment for mental health is at the root cause of that very often. And indeed, in many cases, it leads to criminality and people entering the criminal world, often to feed an addiction or simply because they have not received treatment for mental health and it is a way out for them. So that is a very significant issue. And no doubt, mental health and the impact it has on people very, very often results in severe physical health issues emerging after time if there is under-treatment. So for a wide variety of reasons, it is extremely short-sighted for any government not to prioritise and adequately resource mental health. I suppose one area I do want to focus on in my few minutes is the area of housing, and I suppose the lack of housing provision for people with mental health. Very often, as public representatives, we would have people coming to us and family members coming to us where they are trying to provide housing for those with mental health, often mild mental health, but people who are patients of the mental health services in some shape or form. We do not have housing options for them to provide independent living for them with some wraparound services. The wraparound services are simply not there, and that's not good enough. And very, very often, people end up in accommodation that is not suitable for them. I know of one case where someone is in long-term accommodation in a homeless service because there is not proper accommodation available for them, and that's something this individual's family is very concerned about, but there does not seem to be a way out, an alternative option. The area of community services, we've heard how difficult it is to get inpatient treatment, but that's not the solution for everybody. There needs to be more community services available at a local level, and I think that's something from a primary care point of view, again, something that there is a huge deficit in and something we have to try and address. But I suppose one area I do want to focus on is the whole area of mental health in young people and indeed in children. It is a huge issue, and I think it is under-recognised, the extent of the issue there. It's been referred to in relation to CAMS and the waiting lists and so on, but I think the area of anxiety is widespread in our society, particularly among children and young people. We live in a stressful world, we live in a difficult and tough world, and the whole area of social media has amplified that to a very, very large extent. And unfortunately, it puts ferocious pressure on our young people, pressure that we did not have when we were growing up. So I think we have to recognise this, and at a government level there has to be huge recognition for treatment of an issue such as anxiety in our young people, because God knows it leads to something far, far worse if it is untreated. Look, I welcome the recognition in relation to the mental health bill. We do have to progress that, but as we know full well, if we do not adequately resource it, it's not going to provide the solutions that we need. So giving something a strong footing from a statutory point of view is very welcome, but it has to be adequately resourced so that we can provide the services that are so badly needed across society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Sinn Féin.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.